All right, welcome back to Before Nashville. Normally, we're introducing the country stars of tomorrow to the country fans of today, but I've got something that I want to share with you guys and just give you a little bit of, music is a very powerful thing. It will absolutely heal the soul, and we've heard that time and time again. But sometimes it takes a little more than music to help somebody. And tonight we're going to talk to a gentleman who his mission is to do just that. And we'll talk to him coming up in 30 seconds. So stick around.
Nashville is proudly sponsored by Go-Go Tuners, the go-to tuner for professional and amateur musicians. Get your Go-Go Tuner at gogotuners.com. By Heart to Heart Coffee, the coffee that gives back. Find out more at heart2heartcoffee.com. By Sibby's Apparel, worn by heroes, made with respect. Order yours at sibbysapparel.com. And by Three Rangers Whiskey, not for the weak or faint-hearted. ThreeRangers.com.
All right. And thank you for joining us tonight. If you're tuning in, be sure to tell all your friends to tune in as well, because tonight's a very special night. You know, every day, veterans and first responders are diagnosed with PTSD and dealing with this ongoing battle, especially at home. It doesn't have to happen. All right. And especially doesn't have to happen alone. And one of the big things that helps them are service dogs. And tonight, joining me, I have the CEO and the founder of Forgotten Coast Canine from Florida, Chris O'Brien. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch something here, so I'm going to freak everybody out real quick, okay? I'm going to put you over the website.
There we go.
Oh, sorry about that. But Forgotten Coast Canine. First off, tell us a little bit about Chris O'Brien. You know, kind of your background into getting into training dogs and your own dog and that kind of thing.
Started off, I served in the Air Force, and when I got out of that, did the corporate thing for a while, but just felt like I needed to serve a little bit more. So I went through the police academy late in life, went through at 43 years old. So I was about twice as old as everybody else there. Worked my way in, got on the K9 unit, and wound up running the K9 unit for the sheriff's office here in Madison County, Florida. It was a great experience, but as my dog was getting older, I wanted to train the next dog coming up. So I took some courses through a company called Top Tier Canine, and really got involved with them, went through and learned how to train my own service dog, and was training a dog. And a buddy of mine, he was shot, he was wounded in Somalia. He was part of the Lost Convoy and all that during the, if anybody's seen the movie Black Hawk Down, and David Easterbrooks. And he was really, really flat when he got home. He wasn't really responding to much. And so his wife called me one day and said, David I need you to come do something with him. So I got him out of the house. We went out and we wound up at my house, and he and the dog that I was training just really hit it off. The dog was all over and licking him, pulling on him, and you could see a light in David's eyes kind of spark. And I said, I need to send you home with Rex. And he said, please don't do that. I've got 4 dogs at home, and Angela will kill me if I bring home another dog. But we figured that permission or forgiveness was better than permission. So
right.
we got him home with the dog, and it changed David's world. He went from a guy that wouldn't get out of bed and wasn't emotional at all to a guy that became passionate about life again. He tore down his chain link fence, put up a privacy fence, painted it, got his garage fixed leaks, so that he just became David again. And when we were going through that, another friend of his, an Army buddy's friend, his service dog Sasha died. And we were contacted by a company out there, and we worked through with his dog, and we got several months later, we got Xander into Casey Calder's life. And again, immediately changed Casey's life. So I decided at that point that maybe training pets and everything and doing it on that side of the world wasn't what I needed to do. The service dogs, what we were doing, and it was changing people's lives. So we decided to go that route, and Forgotten Coast K9 was born as a charity from that point forward.
Right. Now, a lot of people have dogs, and we think of our dogs as our kids and our family, and they do bring us some joy. What do you feel is the biggest difference between a service dog and a family dog? I mean, you said David had 4 dogs already. What was it about those dogs that could not bring him to that kind of a passion again?
Well, a lot of times with pets, they're tuned into the whole family. They're kind of in every family dog. What we've noticed with the service dogs, they really lock in and tune into their guy. I'm like, just like Rex picked David, went to him and started doing all that kind of stuff. They really get on a different wavelength with their owner. Casey is a perfect example. We had Xander. Casey was getting ready to go back to Texas after being here and picking up his dog and spending some time with us. And you could tell Casey was getting nervous. You could tell everything about it. Xander read that, jumped up on him, was looking at him and pulling, and Casey started to correct him. And then I pointed out, I said, no, Casey, just calm your dog down. What the PTSD dogs do is they distract you. They become annoying, for lack of a better word, so that you spend your time with them, focus on them. And by the time you've gotten them calmed down, your thoughts are back to normal. You're not where your mind was to begin with. And they become so in tune. Like my personal service dog, for me, I suffer from nightmares from some of the stuff, that we saw here with suicides and everything that we witnessed on the sheriff's office. And my dog Sophie will pull on my hair. She'll bite my ear. She'll do anything she can do to wake me up before I get too deep into the nightmares. And it's just I don't know. It's just a link that they have with the owner. I've got other dogs at the house too, and they don't behave that way. It's just the way that the training is structured. You teach them the odors, you teach them all of that stuff through the training process. Let me back up a bit. Top tier canine uses 50 different elements to roll into 4 main functions to build what they call a foundation dog. All of the service dogs that we use are foundation dogs. And what that does is that teaches them to track, teaches them to find odor, teaches them advanced obedience. And of course, it adds what a lot of the guys need is that's protection. And so what that does by working them through the odor and working them through the tracking, it teaches them to forge ahead and that they can work away from you. But what it also does is tunes them into the different odors of your body. Your body puts off different chemicals when you're reacting to different things, and the dogs can sense that. So it's a big difference between the two.
Right. Well, and we've got some folks on that are sending questions and stuff. And Jeff Hastings, he is the, I guess you would call him like the lead on, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what it's called, the Flagman's Mission. But he wants to know how does he know if he needs a service dog?
Usually, actually, your partner will tell you that. We get contacted more by husbands and wives than we do by the actual veterans. But if you find yourself super nervous in a crowd, if you're that guy that can't get comfortable in the crowd, you're always looking around, you're always checking. I mean, we all do that, right? We all back into it. We all sit at the corner of the restaurant so we can see the whole room. But if it starts getting to a point that you're having trouble focusing on everything else and really being able to enjoy your life while you're out there, then you may need to look at a service dog, because they will calm you down. They will be that buddy that you need in the crowd. We have a young lady that just got a service dog from us. She went through our program. The first time we met her was at a wreath laying ceremony up in North Carolina. She didn't smile. She didn't make eye contact with us. We later learned her story that she was 5 months into her hitch in the Marines. She was raped by one of her superiors. She finished out the 5-year mission. She wasn't going to give up on being a Marine. But since then, she doesn't trust people. She can't be in crowds. She clings to her people. Starting to go through the class, 4 or 5 weeks into it, we brought her down here as our first class was graduating. And we had a couple of females in that class, and she started to open up. When I gave her the dog last week, I took her up for the final give for the dog and the final lessons. She sat down and talked to me for an hour and a half, like I was her dad. She's only a year older than my daughter, so she sat down and talked to me almost like I was her dad in that situation.
Right.
So we see how the dogs make them more comfortable. It gives them more confidence. It gives everything about it. So when you're in those crowds, you're in that situation, that dog it just relaxes you. You know you've got your buddy there.
Right. Now, you've mentioned the word buddy several times, and you have two different programs, and we're going to talk about those and kind of differentiate which one's which, because you have one that's called Buy a Battle Buddy, and then you have Build a Battle Buddy.
Right.
So on the Buy a Battle Buddy, what is to kind of explain that program to us.
Well, the Buy a Battle Buddy program, what we do is, again, we use the foundation dogs, right? Because we know how they're trained. We know that they've been through the process. They've been through that 50 different sets, elements to go into the 4 main functions. So what we do is the guys that need an immediate need for a service dog, that don't want the hassle of going through with a puppy like the other program, we can get them a dog in 8 to 10 weeks. They go live online for 8 weeks. And then we do some hybrid things. Sometimes we have them come here. Sometimes we go to them to do the finalized training. But what that does is it gets them a fully trained service dog in their hands in 8 weeks. And then we finish it up for 2 weeks to make sure that the dog is good in all of the surroundings, the airports, the crowds, the restaurants, the bars. We do everything that we can do to simulate the situations for them. But
Right.
That gives them a faster dog, much faster.
Right. So then with that program, they are not as in depth as the Build a Battle Buddy program from what I've
This
read.
is a lot of the programs out there, not all of them. A lot of them are getting better and better about having longer handler training, but a lot of the programs when this first started, it was 2 or 3 weeks. Good luck, with the dog. So what we do is we actually take them back during that 8-week process. They learn completely how to train a dog, so that if they want to, actually, they can go through and get certified, go through a business program, and the owner of Top Tier will help them write a business plan, do everything to become pet trainers. And he'll certify them as actual pet trainers once they go through the program. So they learn a lot more about the care and feeding of the dog. They learn how the dog was taught, how the dog learned, and and the shots and all the maintenance and everything for the dog. So it's more intense than just the 2 weeks and good luck.
Right. And now with the Build a Battle Buddy program, like I said, it's a lot more in depth for the soldier, the first responder, the veteran, whoever is
Right.
receiving the dog. It's a lot more in depth, and that kind of goes into more of what you were saying about you bring them in to do the training on kind of an advanced thing. But it sounds like the difference in them is a lot more detailed.
It is, and actually the Build a Battle Buddy is my favorite program because they start with an 8-week-old puppy. I fly the dog out to them and meet with them and spend some time with them, and then they start their classes. They learn all of the puppy training, all of the pet training. They learn how to create a foundation dog in that program that Top Tier has developed, and then they finish by finishing off to their specific need their own service dog. So at the end of that 30 weeks, it's all live online with full support. At the end of that 30 weeks, they've trained their own service dog. And what that does is that helps them go back with their buddies that have service dogs and help them fix any problems they may have, or God forbid something happened to that service dog. They can go get another puppy and train it on their own now without anybody else's help. So, and again, they're offered that week-long business boot camp that Top Tier offers, and they'll teach them how to run their own business. So we had a kid, Cody Dolman. He is in Wichita, Kansas. He went through he was who we kind of guinea pig through this program to tweak it all out. And Cody was driving in Afghanistan one day, woke up 7 days later in the hospital, and all his buddies were dead. Extreme survivor guilt, tried to kill himself, wound up, in a Google hole one night, and found Top Tier, found us. And he fully credits us with saving his life and getting him on the right track. And that kid's making $120,000 a year training pets in Wichita. So it gives them
Wow.
a purpose, it gives them a job, it gives them a way to make great money and work at their own pace. And it just really, he said he's not thinking about, it's suicide doesn't cross his mind anymore. So
Right.
that's why the Build a Battle Buddy program is just my favorite.
Yeah, and between the two, I mean, it sounds to me like the Build a Battle Buddy. That is a
It's
tongue
hard to
twister.
say.
I
Yeah.
don't know why you did that to me, Chris, but I sure appreciate it.
I do what I can.
In that program, it's like you said, it's more hands-on. They are more able to, to work with their own dogs or somebody else's dog, and even train dogs, and use that as, it may be that they can't be in a setting where there's a lot of people, so they can't have what you might call a normal day-to-day job. They're not going to be able to work in a factory. They're not going to be able to work in a grocery store, things like that, because the people, and with their experience, it has really, I guess, affected them is the best word I can use. So this teaches them to be able to work by themselves, but as you said with Cody, can turn into a very lucrative business for them, which gives them that sense of purpose and that sense of, I'm still needed. Because we know when a veteran comes out of the service, sometimes it's very hard for them because they're used to everything being so structured. You get up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, every minute of your day is pretty much planned out, almost down to latrine time. But, so it kind of is a disconnect when they get into the world of the real. And,
Right.
and I mean, I don't know exactly how to say that, but I think anybody that's been in the military kind of understands what I'm talking about, everyday life.
And it is. It's such a hit the brakes, slow down, because especially guys like David that were over there. He was a first sergeant, 375th Ranger Battalion, Bravo Company. He was, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Somalia. He saw all of it. And he, when he got back here, it was just slam on the brakes. He couldn't find, that adrenaline. I mean, it is true. I mean, part of it is an adrenaline thing. But what we've tried to do with the dogs, is we get these guys, especially with the Build a Battle Buddy program, because they have to teach them how to track. They have to build their bite development. They have to do everything. And then when they come here, we advance it and expand on it. But what we also do that's way different than anybody out there that I've seen. I mean, there may be some that I've overlooked, but once a quarter, we have Brian Mender. Brian is a service-disabled veteran. He's a quadriplegic now. Gets around with a motorized wheelchair and his cell phone. If his cell phone falls out of his hand, he's just done. So his service dog is a medical device retrieval dog and a protection dog also, because who's more vulnerable out in public than a dude in a wheelchair?
Right.
But Brian does a quarterly meeting live online. We do a Zoom meeting with all the graduates so they can talk to Brian and discuss any problems that they have, because he's gone through it himself.
Right.
So, but what that does also is that builds that camaraderie back that everybody misses when they leave the service. It's a different type of brotherhood. If you've never served, or, I was in the Air Force, so in electronics, so we didn't really have that a lot of these combat guys have, but I was a SWAT guy and a K-9 guy in the sheriff's office. And so you miss it. That's the only thing you miss when you leave, is that brotherhood, that tight knit stuff. So that's what we're trying to build back with with our Zoom meeting quarterly, is that whole feeling of camaraderie, of that, we want to let you know that we're part of your family now that you've come through this. You're not just another number on the wall. Right.
Well, and I'm going to refer to this question that Jeff has real quick, because I think what it amounts to, Jeff, is, and I'm going to let Chris expound on this, there are females in the program. If you go to their website, which is, I'm going to, right there, Forgotten Coast Canine. Is it .com? It is .com.
It's .com or .org. Both of them go to the same place.
So if you go to that website, they have stories on there. I call them success stories. And you can see there are females involved. but it seems that there are a lot more males that these go to than the females. And Chris, I'm going to let you address that for a minute because you see the applications and you work with them and stuff. So if I'm wrong, I mean, kind of correct me.
Yeah, we're getting more and more females in, like Serenity, the girl I was talking about that just took the dog to. Two of our graduating class, in our first class, we had a female RN and another female Marine. So there are a lot of them. I say guys because I grew up in the era when it was only he, in the English book, he did this, he did that. It wasn't he or she and all that. So the guys thing is that's my vernacular. Sorry about that, but for the misunderstanding. But yeah, we have some great success. And like I was getting at with Serenity earlier was that everything she posts now, she's smiling ear to ear. It has changed her life drastically. And she came through the program. She started January 23rd, and she got her dog last week, and she's doing amazing. So sorry about that. It was just a misunderstanding. There's the women actually, I hate to admit this, but the women actually take to the teaching a little bit better. They don't have any preconceived notions about how a dog should be handled. So they're actually easier to teach. But we've been having some really good success with the ladies too.
Well, and one of the things that I have to say, men have always been trained. You talk about the women kind of fitting in the training, they're kind of settling in a little bit better. Guys, we've always been trained that we don't admit that we have problems. From the time we're young boys all the way up. We don't have problems. We don't admit we have problems. We don't ask for help. We know that GPS is wrong when they say turn left and we turn right way up on the dead-end street. But we know that's the way we're supposed to turn anyway.
Right.
But a female is more open. So I can see just that. And so it's kind of like, I hope to see at some point with Forgotten Coast Canine, especially more of like a 50-50 type of weighting, where you got as many women as you do men.
We just set up another one. She's 90% disabled. Coming out of South Florida. She started class last week. She's a firefighter by day and was in the Army. So we're getting more and more. One thing that the women really like is the protection aspect that we do. We get some heat from the ADA and stuff because they say the dog can't be aggressive and everything. Well, a service dog can't. Well, the dog, a fully trained protection dog isn't aggressive. It just protects you if it needs to. So there's nothing, and the ADA doesn't. It's not really anything that interferes with what we do. For those that are going to ask that question, it's a problem we deal with from time to time. Because they don't like the pointy-eared dogs. But what we're finding is that the women really love that pointy-eared dog that looks like it could take care of business. So, it's really becoming, and actually I would say by the end of this, that we're going to see that more women are doing it than are getting the dogs. Because we're finding that as we give them the dogs and as they open up, the women open up and share their stories more and share that more. But we're also seeing that in the men. I couldn't get David Easterbrook to talk about a dadgum thing to do with anything that he was involved with when we first started hanging out. And he's had Rex for a few years now. And now when we get to talking about stuff and doing everything, you can't get him to shut up about his nightmares and things. He just rambles on. So it really does help the guys cope with it too. I have an issue with stage fright when I'm initially in front of people, especially when I'm doing the big crowds and stuff at the events. And my service dog can sense that. She leans into me and almost pushes my leg over until I relax, and then she lays down at my feet. So they pick up on all that stuff, and they help you talk through this. They really do become that. And that's why we call them battle buddies, because you're not going to go anywhere without them, and they're certainly not going to leave your side. But it just helps you in everyday life with that dog.
Right. Well, let's kind of just transition for a minute into the like the training process of the dogs, because you mentioned earlier something about this. What is the perfect age of a dog to begin your type of training?
8 weeks.
Okay.
We put them through, top tier. I unfortunately don't have time to do much of the training anymore. So we forgot. I mean, a top tier canine handles 95% of the training. But what they do is they start them at 8 weeks old, and they've got 4 phases that they put the dogs through. Because what they found is that a dog learns the most from, or retains the most from 6 weeks to 22 weeks old. That is their hardcore long-term memory stuff. So you pack as much as you can into that time period, repetition. You're training 5, 6, 7 sessions a day with these dogs to really get it embedded in them. And then after that age, you can kind of branch out and do the different specialties with the dog.
Right. And you kind of answered another question that I had about the areas that you train them in, because you talked about that earlier. There's specific, you have like the 4 tiers and the foundation, and those are kind of the things. I mean, and that could be a very lengthy. I mean, you think about it. You mentioned the number 50 in there somewhere, and I don't remember what it was related to. It may have been on the foundation, the different things within that. And that seems like a lot for, I mean, if I had to, if I had to learn 50 things, I would get a little overwhelmed. But I'm sure how long from beginning to end do you have a dog and they're being trained? I say you are top tier. We'll say you, because these are dogs that you're taking care of.
If we start them at 8 weeks old, they're fully trained by the time they're 22 to 24 weeks. And when I say different elements, like, for example, to get the dog to out if he bites somebody in the protection side of things, they start off with a finger hold at 8 weeks old, just putting your finger in the dog's mouth and get it to hold it calm without biting or pinching or chewing or trying to stick it, pitch it back out of his mouth. And that translates later on as you build the steps to you just saying out and the dog spitting out the sleeve or whatever it's got when you're doing the bite training. So they incrementally do this. They don't start them off with, hitting them with everything at once. You got the basics. Like I've got videos of my Sophie when she was tiny. I actually got her at 4 weeks old because her mother died and she was bottle fed. So I started training her. I've got a picture of her at 4 weeks old working a bite rack. So it's as you add the stuff to them, they take it on a lot, but it's short sessions. When I say 5 sessions a day, I'm talking 5, 6, 7 minute long sessions, and then you put them back up and let them rest for a few hours. Because a puppy at that age really needs 16 to 18 hours of sleep a day. So you're just getting them out, training them for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and putting them back up and coming back a little later. So that's how you get so much in them. So early.
I wonder if I can translate into my daily life exactly what you said. 16 to 18 hours of sleep. I only work for 6 or 7 minutes a day.
6 or 7 minutes 5 times a day. So a full 30 minutes.
Well, that I can handle 30 minutes for sure. But now, and as they're progressing on, like you said, you're teaching them out, you're teaching them sit. We have 2 dogs, and our oldest dog, our biggest dog, the other ones are daughters. But she's a very, she knows sit, she knows, when to come and, things like that. But these dogs are going well beyond that. I think my dog is smart, but I'm a little biased, but I think she's smart. But these dogs are doing so much more. And then you get into the protection aspect, like you were talking about the ADA and that kind of stuff. When you think about what these folks have been through, these men and women have been through, and what they have to deal with in memories and in social settings and sleep, nightmares, all that stuff. They almost have to have that. But it doesn't need to be what would you call it, like an innate aggression. It's more a
right. It's a control, and it's really once the dogs are trained to the level that they're trained, they can tell whether I'm coming up to shake your hand or whether I'm coming to get you. They can read. They really do know the intention as you're approaching. The biggest thing that we find with dogs is that the guys that are having the trouble sleeping, that are they're self-medicating with alcohol or pills or marijuana or whatever or the prescriptions, they're medicating just to get to sleep. And the sleep is still it's not a good sleep. They're still waking up all the time. But what we found is if we can train a dog to check the perimeter of the inside of his house and then come up and get in the bed with him, that dude sleeps like a rock. All of his vices are curtailed then. He's now drinking socially. He's not drinking to go to sleep. He's now, he's taking the pills the way he's supposed to from the VA, not just taking a handful of them to make it go away. So what we're seeing is the medications are reduced, and the self-medicating is reduced also, just by having that dog that they know will protect them if somebody comes in the house. It really does. And that's where the Battle Buddies thing was born, was from that ability to let you sleep while your buddy's watching.
Right. And we've had some conversations, and that's one of the things that you were telling me. Some of these dogs are trained to basically protect by being right next to their I guess their buddy.
Right.
But then some of them will sleep in the doorway as a lookout.
My dog that just passed away a few months ago, Onyx, that's what he did. He'd check the house at night, and then he'd go lay down in the hallway just outside my bedroom door. And from that door, he could see the front. From my doorway, he could see the front and the back doors, and that's where he was comfortable sleeping. And I slept like a baby when he was there, because it was just, I didn't worry about anything. So, but yeah, and they'll find that comfort zone. I've got a dog here that's in the office with me now that is learning his way through this kind of stuff. And he's now gotten to where he's comfortable being between me and the doorway pretty much. So he's learning that protection.
Now, what if, like Jeff asked earlier, how do I know that I would need a battle buddy? And we explained that. So what is the process, say, Jeff would have to go to if somebody came to you and said, I really think he needs something like this? What process does he have to go through in order to receive a battle buddy from Forgotten Coast Canine?
Well, what we have if you go to the website, under the programs heading, there's an application there. You go through that application process. The big thing that we really need is we obviously want honorably discharged guys. So we'll need a copy of your DD-214. You can redact all the information, social and all that stuff. We don't mind that. We just want to see the DD-214 and the honorable discharge. And a letter from the VA that you're at least 10% disabled. We don't want to exclude anybody, but if the VA is not rating you as disabled, we'll still take that on a case-by-case basis. But everybody that we've gotten so far, the minimum has been 70%. So it's everybody's. There's a lot of guys out there that really need this that don't really understand the full impact of what a service dog can do. And I didn't either until I saw Rex and Xander go through their thing, because I always used to, and I'm sure Jeff has seen it too. You go out and you go to the airport, you go to a bar, and they've got this dog stuffed in their purse with a little service dog vest on it. That dog is not a service dog, but you can't say anything about it. So, and that was my idea, because I ran into that all the time with the sheriff's office, was, it's my service dog. Well, and that was the end of the conversation, right? So, and that kind of put a bad flavor for everything. But yeah, with the real service dogs, you can see it's a different confidence that the people have when they've got that dog with them.
Right. And that brings me to another thing when you say that, because you guys, first off, let me say this. And again, this is Chris O'Brien. He's the founder and CEO of Forgotten Coast Canine, and they train
people.
They train the human side of the battle buddies as well as the animal side to help themselves and to help their dogs as well. And so we've been talking about that. But you were talking about, you go into the airport and somebody's got this little dog stuffed in. It's got a service dog vest on. and hang on before I say that, because I want to address something real quick, or just let people know these are not just for veterans. Okay, they also work with first responders as well. So if you're a first responder and you're having difficulties yourself, check into ForgottenCoastCanine.com and see if maybe you're has expanded this to the point that it's veterans and first responders. And
Right.
so we want to encourage first responders to do the same, because
Yeah.
I mean, my son was a police officer for about 15 years, 16 years. And I know that those kind of things, um, I mean, being a police officer, like you said, you see some stuff that people don't see. You see suicides, you see people that have been murdered or in auto accidents and things like that. And that's really no better than somebody that's been in a war. I mean, you see kind of the same, and I'm sorry to say this word, and I hate to say this. Well, let me say it this way. You see the same situations. The word I want to use, I started to use, I don't want to use, but you see kind of the same situations, people are,
Yeah, very, very similar in a lot of cases.
yeah,
Well, in our first class, we had an RN come through. She was an emergency room nurse for over 20 years. And so she came through, and she's got a service dog with us now. She's just right down the road from us in Lake City, Florida. And, I've always had a soft spot for first responders. My mom was an active RN for 57 years. We finally got her to retire last year.
wow,
So it's and me being a first responder and all of my friends and that stuff. So we really wanted to reach out and do things for the first responder community as well, because some of the stories that mom told through the years from being in the ER were incredible. I don't know, how people sleep at night sometimes with seeing what they see.
right. And Jeff made a very good point. The saying, and I call this the saying because there's some arguments about numbers, but 22 veterans a day die by their own hand. Okay. First responders, same thing. We see a lot of first responder suicides. So this is something that they can both do that can save their life, is what Forgotten Coast Canine does. I mean,
Yep.
if you want to look at it that way, it's more than giving somebody a possible career or helping them, keep their mind off of things. It does keep their mind off of things, but the main point is it keeps them alive.
Right.
And,
Well,
and
we've a great example of that is the dog Junie. We gave Junie we've got Tyler Moody is my IT guy, and he sits on the board. He was a Marine, and the guy that recruited him into the Marines and everything was a great friend of his. He was supposed to come through our first class, but was feeling kind of funny, got referred to an oncologist. They did emergency surgery to remove part of his small intestine and colon. He's got stage 4 liver cancer. They found all that out while he was supposed to be here, and they gave him 6 weeks. They said 6 to 8 weeks, and that's all you've got. Well, I was training Junie. I keep losing my dogs. I was training Junie to be my dog, and we got the situation with Craig came up, and we delivered. Tyler took Junie up to Craig, and Tyler had never really seen a service dog interact also. And Junie was another one of those dogs that just knew when you didn't feel right. She'd climb up in, I got real sick, and she would climb up in the chair with me and just lay with me while I was feeling bad. Well, when he got to Craig's house at like 4:00 in the morning, he opens the door. He said Junie looked up at him, looked at Craig, walked across the room, and climbed up in the chair with him and went to sleep. Craig had not been out of his recliner for 4 or 5 days except to go to the restroom. He immediately got up that afternoon. He said, "We got to go buy our toys," and did all that. That was in June or July last summer. Craig's coming to visit us this weekend. He's doing great. He's still, he's still terminal, but it's given him such a better quality of life, and it has extended his life for several months now because he has to take care of his buddy. He can't let Junie down. He's got to get up no matter how bad he feels, no matter how bad he feels for himself. He's got to get up and take care of Junie. So that's the other aspect of it, is you've got to take care of your battle buddy. So no matter where you are, you're not going to let that dog suffer. So you get up and you take care of it. And and a body in motion stays in motion. You get up and you get moving and you start doing all that. And Craig is a great example of what we call an emotional support dog. It's not a full-blown service dog. She didn't go through all of that in-depth training, but she's exactly what he needs to feel better. And we do have an emotional support dog program as well for the guys that they need something when they get home, but they're not really agitated, irritated, uncomfortable in crowds. But when they get home, they need that decompression time. We've got the emotional support dogs. Now they can't go everywhere that a full-blown service dog can go. They don't have all the rights and reasons, but it's still a great comfort to come home and sit there and that dog climb up in your lap and you scratch its head while you tell the dog about your day, So we got other options as well. It's not just the two battle buddy programs.
Right. And that's kind of where I was going with that question, because you've got one where you're talking about doing more of a comfort dog as opposed to the battle buddy or the protection dog. And there was something that you said when you were talking about that. It says that it enables you to help veterans and first responders who may not need a fully vetted service dog.
Right.
So when you say fully vetted, what's the difference between a fully vetted service dog and a comfort dog?
Well, a service dog, by definition, has to perform a medical function, whether it be to help you through your PTSD, whether it be retrieve medical devices, high and low blood sugar. We train them for all of that. So, we get them to the specific need of the veteran when they come through. So the comfort dog or the emotional support dog doesn't have that extensive training. It doesn't have a medical thing that it can do for you. It's just to comfort you when you get home.
Right. And Jeff has asked another question. Jeff's on top of it tonight.
My glasses on, so I can't read.
But he says, so I can have a pet dog and a service dog.
Absolutely. And the way we do that is when you come down to the certifications that we do in Florida, we ask that you bring that other dog with you. And we do the introduction. We introduce them the right way. We make sure that everything's cool with that, because we want success. We want everybody when they leave here. And if you have to stay here a couple of days extra, because we foot the hotel bill while you're in town with us, you just have to get here. We cover the hotel. So if you have to stay a couple of extra days for us to work through a couple of problems, that's not an issue. We take care of that. Or if it's a problem where you've got 2 or 3 dogs and you can't bring them, we'll do a hybrid program. I'm going to Charlotte in 4 weeks to go up there and work with 2 of the veterans up there to integrate the dogs into their work, because their work is, one's in a diesel mechanic shop. It's loud, it's noisy. We need to put the dog in that exact environment when I'm there to help him read it and to help him understand it. And so we have a lot of programs. Our goal is success. So, whatever we need to do to make that happen.
Right. Again, Chris O'Brien from Forgotten Coast Canine. I put up a comment here. This is Hank Trout. He says he enjoyed the program tonight. Hank is a police officer, and I know he was a detective, and I believe now he is the chief of police in Dexter, Missouri, which was a town that was about 10 miles north of me growing up. And Hank he's an amazing fella, and he's a big supporter of the podcast, and I'm glad to see him on. So hopefully, Hank, if you have any of your officers that are, dealing with issues, then reach out to Chris and talk to him. I know there's a number and all that stuff. Just go to ForgottenCoastCanine.com. Tell him I sent you. I don't make anything off of that, so that is not a promotional plug. That's just me telling you that in the conversations that Chris and I have that have sometimes ran into 2.5, 3 hours.
They get pretty lengthy sometimes.
Yeah, we I've really got to know him, and he will do all he can to help out anybody
Yeah.
whatsoever. Um, Now I want to kind of transition here because there's a couple of questions that I had that I want to point to you, and I don't have the information. I should have put it up to where I could screen share it. But the breakdown of the cost. Now, the Buy a Battle Buddy program, the total cost for that is about $31,000.
Right.
The Build a Battle Buddy program runs, but let's just say we'll round it up, $27,000.
Right.
26.9, so 27,000. Now explain kind of the breakdown, because the next item on that talks about the who's going to receive the animal and why you do it this way. I mean, I'm asking you to kind of hit
Okay, yeah, I know what you're
two
saying.
birds with one stone.
Well, the biggest thing that we found, because we gave away a couple of dogs in the beginning, and they wound up back with us. Rex, as a matter of fact, that David has, was given to a naval officer, retired naval officer over in Jacksonville. She had the dog for about a week and a half and said, "Oh my gosh, the dog sheds," and gave it back to us. So there was no value built into the dog. So what we decided to do that, I sat down and worked out with Top Tier Canine some cost breakdowns. And what it comes down to is, let me grab it because I actually have the sheet right here so I can look at it.
You knew I was going to ask some question.
We do get the veteran to put in. We ask that they raise $5,000, whether it be through out of pocket, through fundraisers. We'll come up and help them with the fundraisers. And the immediate blowback we get is that's a lot of money for a veteran. Most of them are down. Well, we asked them to try to raise that $5,000. Mm-hmm. We've had one. We've had several that could raise it. We had one that couldn't. So we scholarship, but he raised $1,500 on his own.
Right.
He put that effort in. He put that sort of. So we scholarshiped in, for lack of a better word, the rest of the money to make up that. What we want to see is, and the reason we put that $5,000 mark out there is that so that people strive to do that. And the ones that put in the $5,000, there's nothing that's going to happen to that dog, right? So, right. I mean, they take 100% better care of it than anything else. But and you'll see a big difference between the school costs on that next line. You know, it's about $2,000 for the school cost on the the Buy a Battle, but it's almost $6,000 on the Build a Battle Buddy. Right. And that's the intensity of the school, the 8 weeks versus the 30 weeks. And then we have the dogs themselves. Normally, that full-blown service dog would cost us about $35,000 to get it. If you were buying it privately and doing it anywhere, $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 is what we've seen the range of. Because of my relationship with Jeff and at Top Tier, he's gotten us dogs. The average cost to us is only $11,500 for those dogs. So he's taking a big hit on that if he does it. And plus, he also puts in kind about $7,000 off the cost of the school. So he's a really big contributor to this. He's a service disabled veteran, former SEER instructor. As a matter of fact, we've got a SEER reunion. What's today? Monday? Starting Wednesday here. He's got his SEER guys from all over the East Coast coming down and hanging out with him. So he gives back that in a lot of ways to make it more affordable. Now, it does cost us about $19,000, the charity, for the finish work, the hotel bill, the school and everything. Right. On the Buy a Battle Buddy side. On the Build a Battle Buddy side, it's a lot less. We're talking, 15? So it's about a $4,000 difference, $5,000 difference between the two. And that really is the age of the dog and the school length. The school length offsets some of it, but the age of the dog, because it's the Buy a Battle Buddy dogs are already fully trained by the staff and they're done and set. And so, we got to pay something for the difference for the training. So right. That's kind of where we came through on those numbers. And like I said, the $5,000, we've only had one person that couldn't do it. And based on his situation, we went ahead and scholarshiped him in. But what we run into a lot of times is we'll just go help fundraise for them. We'll go to the local VA with them. We'll go to the local American Legion with them. We'll reach out. And because even if the American Legion paid for it, right? If they just said, we're going to pay the $5,000 for this veteran, he still has to answer to that American Legion, to his local chapter. So he's still vested in it. He's still got that skin in the game, because now he might not have the money in the game, but he's got his reputation in the game to his fellow soldiers at the American Legion or at the VFW. So there's a lot of different ways that money can come in.
Right. I think it's like Jeff said, you're creating ownership. It's like being a parent.
Right.
And, you give a kid their first car, and they're not going to take as good a care of it as they are the first one that they buy with their own money.
There's a big difference. Yeah.
And I know that's not, it's kind of comparing apples to oranges, cars to dogs, but the theory is the same.
Right. It is. It really is. It's, I think we all wrecked our first cars, right?
Right.
But my second car, I drove through the end of high school, through college, and like 3 years into my first marriage. So the car I bought lasted a lot longer.
Yeah, I don't even want to go into that. My dad bought me one of my first car. It just finally gave out, but he bought me the second one, and he bought another one along with it. He got a good deal. So whenever I did wreck that car, I had to fix it with the parts from the other one. He didn't think it was fixed. So my dad was kind of my dad was kind of a hard ass. I love him, but but I'm going to open it up because I'm sure there are other people out there watching that have questions that we haven't answered. I mean, we've hit on a lot of them. And before we get into one, because I'm going to kind of make an announcement, so to speak, here. But before we get into that, I want to make sure nobody else has any questions. And if you don't, then I'm going to go ahead and proceed. So we'll give them just a couple of seconds here to type. I know Brian Judy from Freedom Jam USA is on, and he only types one finger at a time. He doesn't even have the coordination to do two. So one of the big things, let me go ahead and move forward, and if questions pop up, then we'll hit that. Everybody knows, I think everybody on here knows that I work with Freedom Jam USA. I'm one of the directors, and we are preparing to do our next concert. And that concert is going to be held September 10th. We have everything secured, waiting to hear back from, our acts and everything right now to get those finalized, but we have the venue secured. Freedom Jam USA LLC. We've got everything taken care of, and we have discussed and decided that we feel Forgotten Coast Canine will be one of our two charities that we will be giving money back to. Freedom Jam itself, we raise the money for the bottom line costs. So all the operating costs that we do, we raise the money for that through sponsorships. And then we take the ticket sales and merchandise sales and things like that. And, there's just other things that we take that we can give to these charities. And so each charity will get a portion of the proceeds from that day. So we're super excited about it. Super excited to have Chris.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And I have to say, Dr. Angie, she is a veterinarian from Memphis, and she is actually our title sponsor for this. She's our lead sponsor. So Freedom Jam USA will be brought to you by Germantown Parkway Animal Hospital. Thank you, Dr. Angie, for that. Dr. Angie is also, and I'd have to go back and find it. So let me see here if I can find that real quick. She just recently, see, where is it at? There it is. She recently got accepted to the Army Reserve Veterinary Corps. And she's working with animals day in and day out, which is amazing. And we thank her so much, not only for what she does for Freedom Jam, but just her service period. And she's out of Memphis, Tennessee. So she's, you know, we're doing the show in St. Louis, but we've been able to work with her and make a connection, and she's just been really amazing.
That's awesome.
And I know that, you know, like I said, a portion of our proceeds will go to Forgotten Coast Canine, as well as a Veterans Community Project that they're building tiny homes. I'm going to move off of Chris just for a split second here, that they're building tiny homes for veterans to help them reacclimate. And they have a social kind of club community center where they can go in and learn different trades and things like that. So that's our two charities that we'll be donating to this year. We're super excited about both of them. And Chris and I have been in talks, and so might have another major announcement coming down the pipe once it's all done, but we will find out about that a little bit later on to kind of put that out there. I don't want to jump on that one too quick until we have all of our ducks in a row. So one of the things that Brian mentioned it up here a while ago. Let me go back. I'm sorry. I'm having to go back to these questions because there's some really good stuff that's in there. You know, one of the things that Brian said, and I think this is absolutely true, there's no price that you can put on saving somebody's life who's given so much.
Right.
You know, we celebrate our veterans in so many ways. You know, especially with Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and things like that. But you know, that's just something that we have to remember day to day. And I'm not going to get off on that soapbox because I'll be here all night long on that one. And I only have so much time. So with what we said about Freedom Jam and Forgotten Coast Canine, about the partnership that we're doing, as Freedom Jam, what can we do to help Forgotten Coast Canine? And even what can folks that are watching do to help?
Just our issue right now is that we're new. You know, that people just don't know about us. So spreading the word about us, going to the website, looking at what we do, hitting that donate button on Facebook or Instagram, or go to the donations page that we have there on site. We've got all kinds of things in our online store that you can donate and get tumblers, koozies, hats, shirts. We even had CK Knife and Tool out of Wyoming made us a knife called the Companion Knife. We did a raffle for it last night. We had over 4,000 entries. I mean, we had over 400 entries. We raised over $4,000 just on a knife raffle. So we've got a lot of support out there. And we like the grassroots stuff. And people always think I get a lot of hassle about it when I say $5, you know, goes a long way. It really does. $5 is half of a leash for us. You know, $50 is a vest and a leash for the handler when they get it. You know, so anything helps and goes back into what we're doing.
Right.
I'm missing something with items that we have. We've even got chapstick. Like when I say we try to do everything, we got a lady that's on our board that is, and I didn't know this was a thing, open water competitive endurance swimmer. She swam around an island off the coast of Tampa the other day that had never been done before. 17.1 miles. She swam it in under 8 hours.
Wow.
So she's we need chapstick person. So, but we've got margarita, coffee, or chocolate flavored chapstick. So it's not like cherry chapstick. It's it's adult flavored chapstick. So we've got everything that you could possibly want. We're even having beach towels embroidered and that kind of thing because we run what's called the Fresh Start Swim Series. Is a huge money raiser for us. That's our swim series. There's 4 events a year where they do. They can do a 500 meter, a 1K, a 5K, or a 10K swim. And remember, they do this for fun. A 10K swim for fun. But that raises money for us as well. And so that's where some of the oddball items come from. Is from, sorry, Jolie, I hate to call you out, but that's where some of the oddball stuff comes from that we have in the thing for sale. But our knife is available through our website or through CK Knife and Tools website. So there's a lot of that going on.
Wow. That it's so neat because you go to look at the website and it's got stories about the different, about, like I said, success stories where they've received a dog. They put the sweat equity in, like you talked about, and they tell how that dog has helped them. I remember reading one story where you were talking about where the recipient was talking about he was about to lose his marriage. I mean, he would burst out in anger at no particular time, just boom. And he got a service dog. I mean, they've been to counseling, the whole 9 yards, and the dog started to calm him down. It changed him. And then he started training other dogs as well. And that's just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's Cody's story. Yeah, he's Cody's an amazing kid. I keep calling him a kid. He's 30-something years old, but I'm on the downside towards 60, so I guess he's a kid.
Right. But we're on the backside of Social Security.
I got my AAP card in the mail the other day. I felt so old. It was horrible. But it's truly is amazing. It's our tagline on everything. We say changing lives, saving lives, you are not forgotten. Because one of the biggest things that we're seeing, I mean, I named it Forgotten Coast after my dad. My dad was born and raised on the Forgotten Coast of Florida, so I kind of named it to honor Dad. But what we've seen is when we say you're not forgotten is that, the war in Afghanistan and everything is over now, and the guys really are starting to be forgotten. They're starting to slip through the cracks. They're starting to do that, and it's just, we don't want to see that happen. So that's I think our stories, the success stories, are actually called. If you click on it, it's called Changed Lives or something now, since we are trying to change them. So this has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. So it's just so great to give them the dogs. One more quick thing on the comfort dogs. We had it wasn't through us, but I was lucky enough to be involved in the training of this dog. There's a girl here in Madison who I think she's 11 now. She may be 12 now. But she was nonverbal for 9 years.
Wow.
Would only speak to members of her family. Went to school, but she would only speak to members of her family. They wanted to get her a dog to see if it would help. So they came up and they went through one of the emotional support style dogs. Mm-hmm. She got the dog 6 months later. 6 months after having that dog, she won the speech contest for her class at school and took second place for the entire school. So when we say they change lives, I mean, it is just, I got chill bumps talking about her. It's just so incredible to see.
Man, I got chill bumps just to hear you talk about. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's how much they change those lives. And that's a perfect example of, you're going above and beyond the original, I guess, call of duty of being, there for veterans and first responders. This is a young lady in high school and you've helped her out, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So
her dad is one heck of a gunsmith and fixes everything that I tear up. So it's been a great relationship once we got the dog.
Hey, it's all about relationships, no matter what it is. That's what our lives are about. So, but I mean, I can't wait, because I know Chris and I have talked, and his plan is to be at Freedom Jam.
Oh, absolutely.
And to have, just information about Forgotten Coast Canine. But if you've been on tonight, it's an opportunity for you to meet him, because I can tell you right now, from just the conversations we have, like Jeff says, Chris is very passionate about what he does and how he helps veterans and first responders. And again, Jeff, we're not trying to single out, and we're not trying to delete women out of this, um, because everybody, that, it can benefit from this if,
Yep.
at some point, we talked about comfort dogs, and we've talked about, the service dogs and the difference. And I look at my dog as a comfort dog. I know she's not in here because she hears me. She understands what I'm saying. I know you think I'm nuts, but she does. But our daughter's corgi is kind of really attached to me. And so they're both comfort dogs for me.
Right.
I don't leave one out, but I can see that this level of being able to calm down at the end of the day when you've had a stressful day. And I can see that. But yeah, sometimes you do have to go beyond that, and they have to have a little training. My dogs aren't that good yet. Don't know they ever will be, because the oldest one has a mind of her own. The little one, she just don't care. But I do have, again, this is Chris O'Brien. He is the CEO and founder of Forgotten Coast Canine. If you want information, if you want to, if you feel like, or a family member is watching this and they have somebody that they feel like could benefit from a service dog, go online, fill out their application, give them the information, and just see what happens. Again, Freedom Jam is going to be September 10th at Chesterfield Amphitheater in Chesterfield, St. Louis area. And Chris will be there, and you can meet him and just talk to him. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I kind of feel like I need this, you can kind of converse with them and help them to figure out if they honestly do.
Absolutely. We'll sit down and talk with them. And there'll be 2 or 3 of the board members there. And I think everybody except Tyler that's on the board has a dog. So that's been through this foundation dog program. We're going to get Tyler a dog. He needs something else in his life. But we'll be there, and a lot of the guys have been through it. They've got their service dogs. We'll sit down and talk one-on-one. And one of the other things that we offer that's, again, we try to be different. When they come here, I actually have one of my very best friends. She and I have been friends since 7th or 8th grade. She works with a rehabilitation center that's here in the county. So she's an ARNP, but she's also a psychotherapist side of ARNP. And she actually comes and has a class one day. We just sit down with her, and we let everybody sit around the table, and we talk about the different aspects of the PTSD, and we talk about the triggers and how we can control them. And we really talk about that from a medical side of things too, not just from the dog side of things. So we try to cover everything. We try to really make it an experience while they're here that they can take back with them.
Right. Now, when you talk about something like that, again, I'm trying to, listen in and see if there's things that I can kind of pull out here. What is the maximum number of people that you have in a class at one time? We
like to limit it to 7 to 10.
Okay.
7 is a perfect number when they're here. That's for us when we're doing the finish work, because that gives the first dog time to rest by the time we're done with the last dog. When you get into 10, you start getting pushed for time, and the days get long, and everybody gets worn out. 7 is our ideal number. But with the beauty of the Buy a Battle Buddy program is I can plug them into any of, because they actually go through Top Tier Canine's pet trainer course to learn how the dogs are trained and everything. So anytime he's starting a pet trainer class, if I've just got one person and they need a dog right away, we just plug them into the pet trainer class and rock on. We've got 2 in the pet trainer class now that were last minute people that wanted it to happen immediately, and so we made it happen. Jeff's classes are a little overcrowded, but when they come here to finish, I'll be good. So,
right, exactly. Now, and here's one of the things I wanted to ask you that I didn't ask earlier when we were talking about the training and the program and everything. It normally takes 2 to 5 years, from what I've read,
Right.
2 to 5 years to get a service dog, but you guys do it in a much more, I guess, in less time is what I'm trying to say. How do you do that?
Well, it goes back to the foundation dogs of Top Tier Canine. What he's done with that program, and he even trademarked the whole name and the process and everything. He spent about 3 years getting it trademarked. But what that is you can literally take that dog at 22 or 24 weeks old when they're done with the initial training, and what they call put it on the shelf. It comes out, it does its thing during the day, put it back up. It only needs to be trained once or twice a week once they've been through that intense program to keep their level up. So anytime we have somebody, and he's got over 60 of them that I have access to at any point in time. He's got 60 fully trained dogs down there, and they've got new litters on the ground constantly too. So our puppies are timing out right as well. But the beauty of that is you can pull that dog off the shelf, and in 2 weeks, it'll be back where it was at 22 weeks old when it knew everything fresh, because it's in that long-term memory. So that's how we can do it so quickly, is we utilize those foundation dogs that we have the access to.
Right. Jeff is on it again. He's got another fantastic question, and that's, can you help visually impaired veterans?
I really can't. That's a level of training that is beyond my scope. And Top Tier doesn't do that because of liabilities with the vision impaired. I am trying to find a really good visually impaired trainer to work with, but we haven't found one that can produce any number of dogs. There's pretty much a 2 to 3 year process for the visually impaired dog, for the seeing eye dogs, and so it's hard to find somebody that can do a couple of them at a time. Most of the time, they've got somebody that's purchased the dog, and then they take it through the individual steps. It's just everyone is a one-off. So it's hard to find that.
Would a dog like that be cross-trained between the visually impaired training and the protector training? Is that possible?
I believe it can, especially if the dog is a foundation dog to begin with. Get it through that 22 weeks and then send it to the school to do the visual impaired help. I really believe that it could. Dogs are amazing. And we learn more about them every day. I honestly think it can. My personal dog, Sophie, real tough name, right, for the dog.
Yeah, but it fools everybody.
Yeah. And technically it's Princess Sophie. I didn't name it, but that's so yeah. I'm 6'4", 270 with Princess Sophie as my protector. It's great. But she's a great scent dog. One of the things that we do with the foundation dogs is we send them through the scent training and everything. Well, I had some gallbladder issues, and I had left her at home because we were going to see Shape. Our buddy Craig that has Junie was having to have cancer surgery. And so we went up to see him, and I left her because we were going to be in the hospital so much. I got home, and she was sniffing right where my gallbladder is and sniffing my breath. And then she was almost pulling my hair out, trying to let me know that something wasn't right. She was smelling it. She didn't know what she was smelling. She wasn't trained for that, but she knew something was off with me that wasn't normal. So, the dogs just amaze me every day.
Absolutely. That's an incredible story because she wasn't trained that way. Now, William asked a question. Is it a certain type of dog, or is there different breeds? Like you talk about the pointed ear dogs. What makes them so desirable?
Well, they're really just small. I mean, a Belgian Malinois or a Dutch Shepherd or a German Shepherd, you're not going to find a dog that's got a better nose, right? So if you're training them for the diabetes and that kind of thing, we prefer those dogs, those types of dogs, because we do like the dogs that protect. And the German Shepherds and the Belgian Malinois and the Dutch Shepherds are just that type of dog. But we do have what we call our floppy-eared dogs. Our nicer, gentler dogs are British Labs. And we have a breeder in Kentucky that we use for that. She's a foundation dog trainer as well. And she breeds the British Labradors, and they are amazing. They've got the energy and drive. If you ever watched a Belgian Malinois work, a British Lab is a Belgian Malinois with floppy ears. They have that kind of drive. They will pass out for you working before they let you know they're tired. So you really have to watch those guys. But they're super athletic. They're smaller than the American Labs, and just super agile. They're great for, for all of the nose work with the high and low blood sugar, and they'll get up in your lap and cuddle with you. They're only 45 to 55 pound dogs. So they're not the big, huge dogs, and they're great to get up in your lap and hang out with you too. And they're just super, super smart, easy to train too.
Right. And I mean, it's so, what you do is just amazing to me. And I know from the looks of all the comments we've had tonight, a lot of people are really, you've done a great job at educating folks on this, I would say. Now, I've got one final question, and I don't know, I'm sure I think Brian's still here. Is Brian still on? We'll see here. He'll pipe up here in a second, or he'll just see what question I
ask. Type with one finger, so it may take a minute.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It takes him a while to type yes. But what would be the cost of training Brian not to pee in the road all the time, because he has a bad habit of doing that?
E-collar. Just put the e-collar on him, one-time correction. He's good.
I love it. I love it. That is awesome. So again, Chris O'Brien, he is with Forgotten Coast Canine. Check him out, ForgottenCoastCanine.com. And always remember, if you want to go back and listen to the podcast, I'll have this one up and ready probably about midweek next week. We'll have it on all of our audio platforms. So if you missed any of it, you can go back and listen to the whole thing. Chris, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And
I appreciate you having me. This has been fun.
Again, Forgotten Coast Canine. Go check them out. And by all means, now you're on social media too.
Right. Yeah, we're LinkedIn, TikTok of all places, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We just started the Twitter account, so we're all over social media.
All right. So follow them on social media. Go check out the website. Jeff, thank you for offering to buy the collar for Brian. We'd like to see that for sure at Freedom Jam, so he doesn't try to pee somewhere he shouldn't, because we will have, children there.
Yeah.
I shouldn't pick on him that way. He may have already gone to bed, or he's probably texting me telling me he hates me right now. But he'll get over it. But again, Forgotten Coast Canine, Chris O'Brien, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I enjoyed it. Take care.
Now we're going to be back on Thursday night. We'll get back into the music side of things on Thursday night. Let me jump over here and see. We're going to have Presley Tennant on, and that will be again at 8:00. So check that out. But again, if you did not catch all this interview, this is a important interview. Check it out on all of our audio platforms as well. And that will be up next week. May even be up tonight. Just depends on how tired I get between now and bedtime. So again, thanks everybody for coming on, and tell your friends, share everything with them as well. And we will see you on Thursday night. Everybody take care.
Take care.